Alright, what's up, yes guys? Time for another video. I felt the need to talk about this. I was looking at a video short. A black gentleman named Anton Daniels. He shows up in my, because of my algorithm, the things I listen to, different kind of people. This one I really wanted to talk about because about restaurants and people eating and putting people on the spot. And there was a video about the one black woman walked out on a bill because, and I was kind of agreeing with her on this. I'd give you a link to the video, but this gives me an excuse to talk about other stuff that certain people that were related to me be doing. Uh, but at the same time, I'm trying. Excuse me, I'm trying not to laugh here. Yeah, I agree with the black woman on this one. You know, walking out on her because what I'm talking about here, if there's a mutual agreement, uh, a mutual agreement should be agreed with when a bunch of people are going out to eat. Are we going to split the cost? Is so and so going to pay for it? And I'm going to give you a little bit of different mixtures of different takes on my things, like mixture of circumstances. Why my take, I got mixed feelings, and then it depends on the circumstance. All right, I'm gonna tell you, like in the video here too, that I'll talk about. I'm gonna leave this aside and talk about it in a second. But yes, I have my years ago when I had a pretty fancy job, factory job in Western Pennsylvania when I was in my 20s. I consented to buying everybody meals, like about maybe a 6, 7 people, but I'm gonna push that aside and talk in parentheses. I'm kind of making my point that yeah, if you consent to it, it's okay, but to beware of, say, people, make sure if you go in a group, okay, and if you don't want to be, stiff to the bill or something like that, I've seen a couple videos on this. Make sure everybody has an agreement to whatever. And well, this black woman on that Mr. Anton Daniels was reacting to too. Yeah, she just wanted to order something small, and then a whole bunch of people ordering steaks, right? And the idea she's ordering something small, and then everybody split the bill. She didn't come for that. Should be kind of getting, ripped off unless she agreed to it and consented to it. Okay, even though I'm ordering something small, it's a bunch of people I like or relatives. I'm saying it's up to the people who consent to it, but this woman didn't want to consent to that, and she walked out and said, to hell with that. But I'm hoping in the video too that she didn't specify, because it was a YouTube short, that she didn't stiff a bunch of people with. I'm guessing that she just walked out and paid just her bill, asked for a check. I think she did that she didn't specify, but at least I hope she did. But yeah, anyway, you looking at this, say if you see that coming and you eat with a bunch of groups, you do have the right to say, oh no, I'm ordering something small, and then a bunch of people are going to get over it. It sounds good to split the cost, but hey, I'm going to be paying for, it depends on the amount of people. I don't want to ramble and make a big long video about this, but anyway, if you got this far in this video, yeah, even though I didn't talk to my mother in years, but I remember a memory when I was barely a teenager. Me, my brother, and sister, and people went out. We had this uncle, right, that said, oh yeah, he led my mother to believe, that say, yeah, you want to go out and eat, like, practically lied and said, he was going to treat. And, well, this uncle actually was known to fix people's cars and do underhanded shit and rip people off, but I digress. But anyway, yeah, we all went out, say me, her, my brother, sister, and that. And then, yeah, my uncle always had these kids, say that were with him, that were his relatives, or whatever the hell. So my uncle's kids over there, and forget what some other relative of what's the circumstances that he's um, babysitting them, or taking them out. But anyway, we're going out to eat, and there was a later on after everybody eats, my uncle smugly goes and tells everybody, "Oh, thank your aunt so and so." When I say aunt so and so, that means my mother. Oh, because I don't ain't gonna go say my mother's name on here or anything else, but I'll say maybe I'll use a name. Call her Mary or something. My mother's name ain't really Mary, but I'm just gonna use a name. My uncle goes, "Oh, thank your aunt Mary, whatever. She paying for all this." And instead of my mother just walking the fuck out, that was I wasn't sure she didn't want to get in trouble or whatever, or she could have, but she got mad about it when we were home. She says, "Why didn't I walk out?" But she ended up paying for it, paid for everybody's shit. And I'm just saying that's what certain people get into. You might have so-called friends that go to the bar and do that. Oh hell, one of the first time in my first jobs that I went, a dude invited me to with a very. I'm not even a bar person. I'll go somewhere that serves beer and has a hamburger or something by myself or something. Not a bar stool person. During the times when there's no wild people around there. Like say after you work or something like that, or sometimes on a Saturday in the afternoon, a cafe that serves beer. But anyway, there was one particular time I had somebody invite me to go after drink to work, and he said he was paying for it, and I ended up paying for it, and then he asked me again, and I said nah, but in my own mind I was like, fuck you, dude, no way, not again, I'm not doing that this time. But yeah, you'll have people that, oh yeah, you'll go do that shit, so I've never been fond of getting invited to bars either. Or I talked about for places like that, after work, somebody wants to go to a bar, they want to weasel their way into your life, and you follow them around. You're supposed to follow them around like a little bitch with low self-esteem and be paying for their shit or whatever. But I digress. That's another circumstance. But it's a similar circumstance. You know what I'm saying? Uh, but if you consent to, it's different. But if you got this far in this video, I'll tell you where I actually consented to a particular thing and I had no problem with it because, well, I actually, doing pretty well in a particular job. I had factory job, overtime, a pretty good wage an hour. Job lasted about 10 years or stuff before a job in Western Pennsylvania goes completely later like they do. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about the big old dysfunction of my family members or whatever, or I'm not going to go ramble on and on about how my mother or certain family members didn't approve of my way of getting my first place, my first apartment or whatever. But family get along. There's a little bit of passive aggression on everybody's parts, and sometimes you're forgiving and you're being nice, and at the same time you're self-gratified. I was known to do this. The person that got over with the long hair and still got a good paying job, and by the way, I have it tied back this time so it don't get in my face and distract me in this video. But what I did was how you ever consent to and you ever have it your idea to go take people out to eat, a whole bunch of people out to eat. You're being nice and forgiving and believe in family peace, but it's passive aggression at the same time too, but not in a mean way. Show off and make liars out of people. So you had certain family members, maybe that don't like it. You got your first apartment, without getting a haircut and without getting a car. And yeah, there was a restaurant that lived real close to me, and getting a car was a pain in the ass anyway, because anybody that don't like me on here, you'd have to be somebody to understand even that. Say you wanted a car, but maybe you had your first place or somewhere, there's no place to park anyway. People in the businesses and the restaurants take over the residential places and the nice houses, and they get mad that they're going to the restaurant, they take over. And people park in front of where I had the apartment. If I had a car, I'd be all pissed off anyway. Everybody in the building that I lived in, they were all pissed off, and People left every year for that reason, and I didn't give a shit. I lived within 2 miles of the industrial park, but I digress. But anyway, me here, showing off, decided to take a bunch of people out, you know what I mean? Let's see. Mother, stepdad, brother, sister, my sister's future fiance at the time, and I think my sister's one friend. Let's see. Somebody else too, 6 or 7 people. And at the time, this was in the 1990s, you get a meal for me about $10 or so. That's about, okay, let's say $10 or whatever, but then drinks and I'd say a dessert or whatever, add to that. Say it's 6 or 7 people, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, or even say $70, and maybe add some money with some desserts that cost a little bit. Spent about $100 or so, and then the one waitress handing our table later on, I throw down a $20 tip and I make sure she sees it when it's there, because I don't want nobody else walking away with it, like somebody else, cleaning the tables will take a tip, and that kind of money laying down a tip, right? Don't want somebody taking it. So, I consented to it because I was showing off, that person that didn't get a haircut, not just in front of the family members, maybe some of my critics that go to the restaurant or over there too, that stare at me or whatever. Not complaining about being a victim or anything. That dovetails into my thing, too. Everybody persecuted for this or that. Back in my day, I had a little bit of chip on my shoulder, being persecuted for having long hair that's going gray. I didn't have no concept of these people on YouTube with their blue hair and that they're gay or they're trans. Forever victim being persecuted, or whatever color you are, and so I was being passive aggressive to people around me, showing the hell off, I mean, felt like I got the $1 Million Man or whatever too, but I consented to it. But you can do that, but then I knew in advance what I was doing. But there are situations that I wouldn't get myself into. Say there was a time where I paid my rent, or I bought a bunch of stuff like CDs or whatever, and I only have so much funds. I wouldn't get myself into a situation, go eat by myself, but I wouldn't get myself into a situation where I would be stuck and not be able to pay somebody's bill and take a bunch of people out, you know what I mean? If I knew that in advance, I'd, schedule that a different day, you know what I mean? Yeah, not overextend yourself either, though, too, but anyway, with this rambling, I was trying to give you a point where the difference between somebody, that story I told you about my mother, right, where she was put on a spot and she was stiffed that way and put on the spot, and that she could have walked out, but she wasn't sure what was going to happen, if anybody was going to turn it around on her or whatever too, and say she walked out in the bill and they, like, or some kind of thing like that. Which a couple of my relatives, my one uncle, I wouldn't have put it past him to dang do that, and hold on to the very end and not pay the bill. And maybe he didn't even have the money to pay the bill either, you know what I mean? But I'm telling you the difference between a small story about my mother where she was tricked into it, but then the difference between that and knowingly and premeditatingly consenting to it, like for your own gratification, which is not wrong, you know what I mean? Yeah, there's things like that, you know what I mean? And if you got this far in this video, that dovetails into that controversy that people in videos that I made about before in response about tips. I mean, back in the 1990s, I had a meal by myself cost maybe $10 or $12 or $13 or so, or the prices of things were different in the 1990s. As I was making pretty damn good money at the time. And it was a big deal and you were actually put under scrutiny, believe it or not, if you had a meal by yourself and you gave somebody a $5 tip, the waitresses were happy. But then you had busybodies and it was none of their fucking business. Oh my God, who the hell does he think he is giving a $5 tip? And now in these days, I'm seeing these videos about a tip was never good enough for somebody to be working on DoorDash. They're complaining of people not getting tips, or waitresses or waiters are not getting a good enough tip, and they're criticizing the job and their customers. I'm like, damn. Mixed feelings about that. I mean, a tip is, nobody's obligated to give a tip. I mean, if you don't like the waiter or waitress job you got, stick it out and look for another occupation. Nothing against them, but I'm listening to that stuff, hearing about that on YouTube, people reacting to those videos, and I'm just thinking like, damn, back in my days when my hair was long and less gray, people criticized you for leaving a too big of a tip. You know what I'm saying? That's just extra shit. I'm just throwing it in there. I could just do a whole video on it. You know what I'm saying? And say if you were a person that walk around not getting a haircut that shouldn't have been in some good paying industrial job because maybe you went through an agency where you go to work through the side door of the company, and instead of being a useful idiot like some companies hire you for, you end up getting on with the company because, you know what I mean, hair tied back, and everything else. And the gatekeepers lax their rules a little bit because they had so many no-shows. That's why I got people like me, that as long as you had a sense to have the hair in a ponytail and shit, or under a hat, the gatekeepers relaxed the rules because there was a lot of people that didn't get no haircuts or whatever, looked all presentable, but they had alcohol habits and different other kind of things where they would just, right on payday, just do no shows and get fired from the job. So somebody like me would get in there and hold the job for years and see little raises. And that's just little extra information, you know what I mean? Throw that extra rambling in there because it relates to the good circumstances that I had, and I was one of them. Have not a white person not having a haircut was the other black, the other being black. You'd have to see it as, like, say somebody is black instead of being a victim. Hey, good fortune comes to him like that, or maybe a black gentleman has dreads too, and he gets a good paying industrial job like I worked with some of them. Yeah, they had leather jackets and wearing nice watches and all that. Go in a restaurant and take family out, show off, throw extra money down as a tip. It's like that. You know what I mean? But anyway, with this other rambling, if you sat through that, consenting to it for your own gratification, even though some people with different beliefs regard that as smug or whatever, not a fucking thing wrong with that. You know what I mean? But yet, yeah, you can consent to it, but be careful if somebody invites you out with a crowd and say they're going to ask questions about the circumstances. Don't let anybody spring it on you or whatever, and like, oh, we're going to split the difference, or somebody is stiffing somebody else. Like, even though you're not going to get stiff with the bill, maybe somebody else is going to get stiff with the bill, and maybe you don't want to be a part of that. But yeah, good to ask questions while eating with a group, especially if it's certain relatives of certain kinds and certain so-called friends. I don't care if you're a person that watches me a little bit or a person that don't like me. I think that you can be getting something out of this. And whether you like me or not watching this, or don't like me on this, I have no doubt that you probably have a story or two somewhere along the line somewhere. I mean, every walk of life has a story, whether they've been in it or whether they witnessed it happen to somebody else or a buddy of theirs. I just figured I'd just shoot my mouth off, run my mouth off about that. That's it.